What is up, my football family? Welcome back. Happy draft week. I hope you are as excited as I am amidst a weird time in this world. It's going to be good to have some sports excitement. So welcome to Mock Draft 6.0. This is going to be another What I Would Do mock draft. So hold your "this would never happen" comments for a different video. Actually, specifically Thursday's video, where I will do my last predictive mock draft in the morning. So this is me placing myself in the GM chair of all 32 teams, trying to make the best picks and the best trades for each team here for the future of these franchises. Drafting, of course, off of my own personal draft board. Last thing here, hit that like button down below, guys. When this video gets 1,000 likes, I will drop rounds 2 and 3 stemming off of this mock draft. So don't forget to hit that like button down below. Hoping to have the next one ready to go as soon as this one gets to 1,000. All right, here we go. Number 1, Joe Burrow. Don't need to spend any time on this. It's been beat into the bush. Let's move on. The Washington Redskins at number 2. And I sat here for a while debating what I wanted to do. And I thought about a trade down. But as I like to say, it takes 2 to tango. And I could not find a trade partner to come up based on my own quarterback evaluations. Not worth moving up for a quarterback. You could go Isaiah Simmons. You could go Jeffrey Okudah. Potentially both larger needs for this Redskins defense, but Chase Young, the best player in this draft. The edge players you have in place there are talented, but you don't have that number 1 guy, and everyone else there, including the interior guys who can really play, will benefit from having Chase Young here, and this is going to boost everyone up quite a bit, and would remind me a decent amount of how guys in San Francisco last year really took that next step up with Nick Bosa coming in. And then we've got the Detroit Lions with the 3rd pick here. Again, really wanted to trade down. I think in real life we may see a trade down here at number 3. That's actually where I've put my money on my draft prop bets. But again, with my quarterback evaluations, I don't personally see Tua as a top 5, top 10 player in this class. Not worth trading up here, so I could not find a trade partner here for Detroit, and that's where the decision got very tough because Isaiah Simmons is the best player available. You can make a case Simmons is the best player in this class, but if you are drafting for your coach, I think it wouldn't be necessarily wrong to think that you should just draft the best player, and if Matt Patricia can't figure it out, then we're going to fire him anyway because he's on the hot seat. But I will admit that Isaiah Simmons is simply not a good fit with how this defense is constructed with Matt Patricia. He's not that true big body middle linebacker in this scheme. He's not that hybrid edge outside linebacker in this scheme either. He would be a strong safety. And I think when you put Simmons as a strong safety, given the corner needs, the value that Patricia puts in having that number 1 corner, basing his defense off of what Bill Belichick's been doing in New England with Stephon Gilmore, I'm going to grab Jeff Okudah here at number 3. Would love to have traded down, but could not find a trade partner. Now this thing's going to start to get hot at the 4th pick here. I love this one. It's what we thought up in my live stream mock draft a couple days ago. The New York Giants sitting here at number 4. Personally, I think getting a tackle there to shore up this offensive line that has been an issue over the last few years, but was getting better last year, has got to be priority number 1. And with Isaiah Simmons there, I do think there is trade-up value for somebody. So looking through the pecking order here, I don't want to move down too far because I still want a chance at one of these top tackles, but the Jacksonville Jaguars have a critical trade piece at a position of need for the New York Giants, and that is Yannick Ngakoue. So we are going to send Yannick and the 9th overall pick to the New York Giants. In return, the Jaguars are going to select Isaiah Simmons, who is going to play a hybrid outside linebacker, strong safety, Cam Chancellor role in this defense. When they do go base, I think he will be that outside linebacker here. When they go nickel, he will be a linebacker, safety, slot corner hybrid. Simmons is an interesting prospect. He is a unique skill set, but if used correctly, he can be one of the most dynamic matchup problems for offenses and flip the script on guys that you consider matchup problems. Guys like Michael Thomas, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, these hybrid slot receivers that play other positions. Isaiah Simmons can be that guy that really helps slow down those pieces. and you don't even have to give up that much if you're Jacksonville, because Yannick ain't playing for you next year. Then with the 5th pick, the Miami Dolphins. This has been probably my most bold draft take. I'm not the only one that shares this opinion, but I'm definitely in the minority that the Dolphins should not be drafting Tua in the top 5, certainly should not be trading up for Tua. Just based on my evaluations of him as a player, I do have concerns. I've talked about it in other videos. Long story short, red zone a major concern. Downfield accuracy was iffy with his mechanics. I don't know how well he senses pressure, that playmaking instinct, the ability to manipulate the pocket, know when and how to use his feet. He was basically running a 7-on-7 clinic at Alabama with all day to throw. Difficult to separate what his receivers did for him and what he actually brought to the table. And then you add injury concerns on top of all of that. I like Tua. I have a first-round grade on him. I think he's worth a gamble at some point, but not in this situation. Not with the O-line as bad as it is on a team that is still a year away. They are not a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender. I need to build up some help, and then maybe we do look at Tua later. Got plenty of draft capital to move up later, but I am terrified of missing out on one of these top 3 tackles in this class that are elite tackle prospects, historically speaking. So Andrew Thomas is the pick. Let's get that left tackle in there and work from there. Then with the Chargers at pick 6. This is one of those teams that is basically a quarterback away. The defense is phenomenal. They've done a good job to beef up this offensive line through free agency. They've got some young players in the works there. Could still use that left tackle, but I do trust this offensive line, and the receiving core here is excellent. So I am targeting a quarterback. That said, I'm always looking to trade down, especially if I think I can get someone later in a situation where the quarterbacks are slipping a little bit. So I got on the phone, and who made sense for me as I am taking the GM chair of every team? It was the New York Jets. One tackle is gone at 5. I look at Carolina, Arizona, the Giants now at 9, and Cleveland at 10. All of those guys are candidates to take these tackles from me. I want to get up there and take my guy, Jedrick Wills here. We are giving up the 3rd round pick, a 2021 4th round pick, and the 11th pick here to come up here to number 6 and moving down with the Chargers. Then Carolina at pick 7. This is a team that I think is in a total rebuild, should have Trevor Lawrence on their radar as far as next year, making sure they have the most draft capital as possible to potentially make that move for a quarterback next year. I think the things they've done with Teddy and PJ Walker indicate to me that they are not interested in a quarterback this year. Therefore, if I can trade down, collect more draft capital, especially when the 3 elite prospects in this class are gone with Simmons, Okudah, and Chaisson, the value here at 7, if you were to go defense, is very similar to what it's going to be if you move down. So we're going to keep looking to move down. I think that's also the analytical thing to do. David Tepper, a modern thinker, so this is something I could see them doing in real life, is moving down, collecting some picks, really start to put as much capital into the future as possible for this team. And the trade's going to sound a little weird here, but like I said, based on my own board, there's 1 tackle left. And if I am the Arizona Cardinals, who have the next pick, I'm scared of a team coming up, like a Cleveland or even the Giants coming back up here after those tackles have gone. So I'm going to tempt the Panthers. I'm going to say, hey, we're going to come up, we're going to take a tackle. You can still have your pick. All it's going to take is the 3rd round pick, and you're going to get a 5th rounder back. So a mid-round swap. The Panthers are going to move up 2 rounds and drop down just 1 pick, where the Arizona Cardinals are going to grab Tristan Wirfs, knocking out those top 3 tackles here in the top 7 picks. Such a rare opportunity to get one of these guys. And for Arizona, I think Wirfs is the kind of guy that can develop here and solidify this offensive line to the point where they are more comfortable pushing that ball downfield. They have such a loaded roster, but that offensive line needs to get addressed here. And with how the board is played out, I think this makes sense for them. And then Carolina's back up. Same exact thinking. I'd love to make a pick here. Maybe it's Derrick Brown, Javon Kinlaw, CJ Henderson. But if I can get more future draft capital, I'm going to do it. And the team that I'm going to move up here with, I've been doing it all the time. And Eagles fans might even be getting tired of it at this point, even though it's exciting. This is what I would do if I were the Eagles. Move up for Jerry Jeudy, giving up a future 1st round pick. This Eagles team is loaded. This roster is ready to go. Their problem, wide receiver. Now, this wide receiver class is good, but after Jeudy, Ruggs, and Lamb, and even Justin Jefferson if he were to get to you at 21. After those 4, I don't feel all that good about any of these rookies coming in and providing that day one impact that this team needs and wants. Also, an underrated element here is contractually, these rookies are not going to be making that $20 million mark that the Eagles really just can't afford after giving Darius Slay a bunch of money if they were to make a move for a top wide receiver on the trade market. So lots of reasons why this makes sense here for the Eagles. This to me is the missing piece, that elite separator, Jerry Jeudy, to come in here. And ideally, you have Alshon healthy as that possession threat. You have Deshaun Jackson healthy as that deep threat, but Jerry Jeudy, that true do-it-all wide receiver that can move around a bunch. Then the 9th pick, one more trade here. We got trades galore in the top 10, so 5 trades in the top 10. It's not unheard of. And it's going to be the New York Giants moving down again. So when we move down, we were hoping that one of those 3 tackles would be there. Unfortunately, they're gone. But I do still like Mekhi Becton, and I like Matt Pert. But this is a little early for me. So if I can trade down, I'm going to do it. And the partner here is the Denver Broncos coming up for Henry Ruggs. We've talked about on this channel how that deep threat element is something they're missing. They have a loaded roster, but in that thin Denver air to wear out defensive backs here, Henry Ruggs paired with the deep ball potential of Drew Lock. Giving up a 3rd round pick here, giving up the 2021 2nd round pick. It's a decent chunk to give up, but it's similar to what this team got for moving down last year. So you kind of go hand in hand with your strategy last year, but this really to me is the missing piece. Terrified, of course, of teams like Cleveland, Las Vegas, San Francisco. Lots of rumors of teams wanting to come up, interested in Henry Ruggs. Let's get ahead of the game here. Yes, it's expensive, but I think it's totally going to be worth it. Then we got the Cleveland Browns at number 10. And I've done this in, I think, just one of my mocks, but I'm going to do it again, and that's CeeDee Lamb. So Oklahoma wide receiver, Oklahoma quarterback. Browns fans tore me to shreds on this one. Look at the freaking depth chart, guys. Yes, you have Odell. I love it. I'm not saying Odell's going anywhere. That said, he can't stay out of the news. There's always trade rumors with the guy, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Odell is there. Sweet. Jarvis Landry is a way overpaid slot wide receiver, but he's your only number 2 option as a wide receiver. Put in CeeDee Lamb as a legitimate number 2 option. Gives you an out for Jarvis Landry down the road. You are going to have to pay Baker pretty soon, so you're redistributing that money. But most importantly, you get a legitimate 1-2 punch duo. The combination of Baker Mayfield and his vertical ability throwing the football paired with Odell's separation, CeeDee Lamb's vertical, like leaping, aggressive mentality, going after the football and well-placed jump balls, Jarvis Landry in the slot with 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. Yes, left tackle is a need here. There is depth in this class. This team is rumored to like Ezra Cleveland. You can always figure that out later. CeeDee Lamb is the best player on the board right now. And despite what Browns fans think, this is a need, quote unquote. All right, so lots of explaining to do there in the top 10. I think it's going to get a little more simplified as we move on. So with the 11th pick, this was the plan. We're going to move down. You guys see this coming. Jordan Love to the Chargers, my number 2 quarterback. Build some parallels there with Patrick Mahomes in your division. Generate some excitement in this new stadium. Doesn't need to play right away. You got Tyrod Taylor. So to me, this is a great spot. I think Love is one of those guys that doesn't necessarily need to sit an entire season, but I don't think, especially in a shortened offseason, with the corona situation, is going to be able to come in and play right away. So I don't think that'll happen here, but this is a great opportunity for a guy with all that talent in Jordan Love. Then we got the Raiders at pick 12. This one's pretty easy. CJ Henderson, who's climbed up myself and a lot of people's boards, and he's a perfect scheme fit here. The Raiders love to run a lot of that off-zone coverage, a lot of cover 4, a lot of cover 3 bail. CJ Henderson is going to be excellent at that. Now, Henderson can press, but I think he's even more comfortable just starting with his eyes on the quarterback, using those instincts, that quick athleticism to break on balls, and that length to be a playmaker as well. So I like CJ Henderson here to the Raiders a lot. And then the San Francisco 49ers, with those wide receivers gone, with CJ Henderson now off the board, it's a very clear pick here, and it's Javon Kinlaw. Now, some sort of off-field stuff has popped up with Kinlaw, both as far as injuries, and I believe they said he failed a drug test. The drug test thing doesn't bother me that much. I mean, they're not even going to suspend guys for pot anymore, and most of the league smokes anyway. The injury stuff, it's hard to say how legit that is. The source I heard it from, I wasn't familiar with. I'm not too scared. The guy stayed healthy in college and is a monster. The get off, the pass rushing ability. He is your DeForest Buckner replacement. Now, Niners fans hate this idea because you have this excitement surrounded by the 13th pick. You were just in the Super Bowl and you still get a top 13 pick. Let's go get Henry Ruggs. Let's draft a corner, like a line, like whatever the flashy positions are. Oh, we're just trading our superstar defensive tackle for another superstar defensive tackle. It's just a younger, worse version of him. That sucks. Well, newsflash / reality check. You can't pay everyone. This roster's loaded, but you need that true interior presence. No one's afraid of Solomon Thomas and DJ Jones. Guys, Arik Armstead is not a defensive tackle. He is an edge player that plays a little 3 and 4 tech on pass rushing downs. So you can't possibly tell me that this isn't a need, and that Javon Kinlaw, by the way, is the best player on the board right now. So I know it's not exciting to swap a defensive tackle for another defensive tackle, but believe me, it's the right thing to do, especially if Henry Ruggs is gone. Which I do agree, Henry Ruggs would be awesome in this offense with Shanahan scheming him up. But you can't always get what you want. All right, pick 14, Tampa Bay. Offensive tackle is a big need here. There are veteran options on the market to come in and play right tackle at the moment. Notably, DeMar Dotson, who's been here and wasn't particularly bad next year, so I would think they can just figure out how to get him back. It shouldn't be too difficult if you don't go offensive tackle here at 14. So I really do want to make sure I'm going best player available, make sure I'm getting the best value. Justin Jefferson here at 14. This is about where he comes in as far as my big board goes. You've got two excellent outside options, but Tom Brady is not going to be comfortable without a reliable, quick separation underneath slot wide receiver that's going to be in the right place at the right time, put in the time in the film room to really come with the same preparation. And Justin Jefferson is the perfect fit with Tom Brady. I love Mike Evans and I love Chris Godwin, but he is not the typical sort of wide receiver that Tom Brady likes to work with from a finesse film technician type of standpoint. So this is the kind of missing piece in this offense other than that right tackle, but there's depth at tackle later in this class that I do like. And like I said, there's veteran options available as well. Then the Giants after they move down here, gonna get Mekhi Becton. Now, I actually have Matt Pert over Becton on my board, but the fact that Becton is a left tackle, Pert is a right tackle, does play into the thinking here. I know you do have Nate Solder there, so logistically speaking, if you were just in a win now mindset, you would want a right tackle to fill out the offensive line. It's not exactly a great reality to think. You know, Nate Solder's not going to be around forever. This might be his last year with the Giants. So I'm taking Becton. I'm starting him at left tackle. He is a little more raw, but that upside, the pass protection floor is incredibly high. Daniel Jones and his fumbling issues, history would tell us that those fumbling problems really just don't go away. If you're bad at sensing pressure and hanging on to the ball in kind of those quick twitch moments, as Daniel Jones is, it's going to help to have a blind side that he can trust. And right now, it's not even Nate Solder. So we're going to kick Nate Solder over to right tackle. If you can't figure it out, then so be it. We're probably moving on from him soon anyway. And after trading down, this is a great spot for Mekhi Becton. Then we got the Atlanta Falcons grabbing Derrick Brown, who falls in this world. A lot of people are going to come in here and say, no way, Derrick Brown falls. He's a top 5 player. He is a run defense first interior defensive tackle. He can rush the passer, but he's not on the level of Javon Kinlaw in that regard. I do like Derrick Brown quite a bit. He's a top 10 player for me in this class, but positional value, going to kick him down. Now, I will say put him here next to Grady Jarrett, who's more of that undersized pass rushing, borderline elite pass rusher, Grady Jarrett. All of a sudden, that D-line as a whole, with Dante Fowler, Tok McKinley on the edge, which is a decent duo, can start to make some noise here in Atlanta. Then we got the Dallas Cowboys. This is an easy decision for me. Kristian Fulton, it's about the right value. This is a desperate need for me for Dallas. Not necessarily for 2020, although I do think Kristian Fulton would start, as they don't really have that number 2 outside guy. You got Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown, but I think they're both best in the slot. Dallas has a bunch of cap wrapped up, top-heavy numbers. They're going to have cap issues re-signing Xavier Woods at free safety, Chidobe Awuzie, and Jordan Lewis, and even Clinton Dix. 4 of their 5 starting secondary members are set to be free agents next year. They're losing somebody, so it might be Awuzie. Regardless, you need that number 2 corner, like I said, but it has got to be a defensive back here, and I think corner is the more pressing start now piece there in that secondary. Then at Miami, at number 18, you didn't even have to move. Tua is going to fall to you. I'm comfortable not taking a quarterback this year if I'm Miami, but if you can get Tua at 18, the 15 to 25 range for me is really where Tua comes into my thought process. Anything higher than that, you are passing up on surefire, elite impact prospects at critical positions of need. I just don't think Tua is this automatic plug-in elite quarterback prospect that so many people seem to think. It doesn't mean I don't like him. It doesn't mean I wouldn't take him in the first round. But in this territory, with the injury risks tacked onto the fact that I don't think his film is as good as everyone says. But you do get your quarterback here at 18 in Tua. And if this fall happens, by the way, on draft day, let's not be too surprised, because I do think that there will be GMs that see the same things I see in his film, but more importantly, it's a weird time with injuries and the inability to evaluate these guys' medicals. Tua very well could fall, given the fact that he hasn't finished a college season without getting hurt at some point. Then we got the Raiders at 19. So we grabbed Henderson earlier, and with those top 3 wide receivers gone, the fact that this team invested in linebacker in free agency, the fact that the edge players in this class I don't think are necessarily good enough to warrant replacing the guys you do have that I do think could use an upgrade, but you're not really doing that here in this draft at 19. So a trade down here is really ideal for the Raiders, because I do have a target in mind that we'll talk about later that I think you can get moving down. We're going to pick up a 2nd round pick and pick 28 from the Baltimore Ravens. We do have to return a 5th round pick as a bit of a 2nd, 5th round pick swap. And the Ravens are going to draft Kenneth Murray, their linebacker replacement that this defense really does need. His leadership and mobility from that middle linebacker position, the size that they can have to blitz, play the run. They can coach him up, dropping into coverage, which is a bit of a weakness, but he is a very similar player to CJ Mosley, but gives you a cheap option. I also think he is a better athlete than CJ Mosley, more coverage upside. So there you go. Ravens get their linebacker. Then the Jags at 20, who had a great trade up for Isaiah Simmons earlier. We are going to grab Kayvon Chaisson, replacing almost pound for pound, literally, Yannick Ngakoue. He is a smaller, slighter, finesse speed rusher who does pack a little bit more of a punch as that smaller guy. So a perfect replacement for a guy that has had a ton of success in this scheme. Yannick Ngakoue starting to rebuild the glory that was the Jaguars defense, even if it was a short-term glory. Then the Panthers, where we moved down here. Now, I think the best player on the board, which ideally is what you would do here, is Patrick Queen. The problem here is you've got Shaq Thompson, who's already kind of that weak side linebacker. I don't think the Panthers are a team that are going to want to kind of replicate what the Falcons do as far as that massively undersized group of linebackers. I think if they were to draft a linebacker here, they would much prefer to have gotten Kenneth Murray. The other guy I thought about was AJ Epinesa. I just don't know if that's the first pick you make in this new regime. Like, he's a good quality player, but as far as potentially lacking some of that pass rush element, I don't know if that's the value pick here. This is a very modern thinking, analytically based mock draft here for the Panthers, which I think this regime really is going to go for, coming from David Tepper, Matt Rule, coming out of that Big 12 that loves to think modern and analytically, and corner is in a position supported by analytics as far as positional value, and Jeff Gladney is actually the pick here. Now, Gladney wouldn't be my next highest ranked corner, but if we are going to assume that Matt Rule, bringing in the Baylor defensive coordinator with him, Phil Snow, that Big 12 defense, a lot of off-zone coverage, a lot of cover 4, a lot of cover 3 bail, similar to what we talked about with the Raiders. Someone that is extremely comfortable with that defensive scheme is going to be Jeff Gladney. He has excellent instincts in zone. You get a perfect scheme fit here, and a guy that's going to start here for a long time and be a really just quality pick, Jeff Gladney, at a real position of value. So then Minnesota's up. We're going to grab AJ Epinesa. Vikings fans, at least a lot of them, think that Ofedi Odenigbo is a long-term answer at edge. He's not. He's a placeholder bridge guy. Kind of lucked into a bunch of sacks last year. AJ Epinesa is a great fit here. It fills the void left behind from Everson Griffin as that big-bodied edge defender. Epinesa is going to defend the run much better than Ofedi Odenigbo. And then, hey, here you go. You can kick him inside. You have need on the interior as well. So kick Epinesa in on passing downs where he was really successful at Iowa. The Vikings did this a lot against the Saints, so it's something Zimmer clearly wants to do. I know Vikings fans want a corner, you want a right guard. For one, the value just isn't here. This isn't the best corner class after those top two guys. But the other thing is Zimmer just doesn't like playing rookie corners, so why take one this high? And the wide receivers are all gone. So AJ Epinesa is the pick. Then we got the Patriots at pick 23. I got a couple guys in mind, but as we know, Belichick loves picks, would always love to trade down if he thinks he can get the same value moving down, and that is the case here. We're going to move down with the New York Giants. We're going to send us the 4th pick in the 2nd round, their 3rd round pick, and then we're going to swap 4th rounds in our favor. So we're going to move up about 15 picks in the 4th round. And the New York Giants are going to solidify what will become one of the best offensive lines in the NFL all of a sudden, grabbing Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan. John Halapio has departed. He was a weakness at center anyway, so you get a center and a left tackle in this class. And all of a sudden, we're talking about the New York Giants as one of the better surrounding cores in the entire NFL, offensively speaking. Now we've got the Saints at 24. This one was pretty easy. Linebacker is one of very few needs on this Saints defense. They need that number 2 guy. They need a long-term answer as well. Demario Davis in the last year of his deal and up there in age. So Patrick Queen, a local guy, slam dunk pick, plug him right in there. Then the Vikings at 25. So corner and interior defensive line, receiver, all kind of the needs here at 25. With how the board is played out, I think that's a pretty major reach. So I am going to look to trade down if I can. And I did actually find a trade partner here, the Cincinnati Bengals. Don't want to walk out of day one without getting an offensive tackle to support Joe Burrow. You do have Jonah Williams coming back, but Matt Peart to me is the 4th offensive tackle on my board. He is a right tackle. Jonah Williams is going to play left. I actually have a higher grade on Matt Peart than Mekhi Becton because I think he's going to be more of a day one impact, and that is what the Bengals need at right tackle. So this is a perfect fit for the Bengals. Plug him right in there at 25. Let's move on. The Miami Dolphins at pick 26. Logic might say go offensive tackle here, but a lot have flown off the board. I actually think the players you're going to be looking at 39 with guys like Josh Jones, Jack Driscoll, those would be my top 2 targets here, but I don't mind Ezra Cleveland, even Isaiah Wilson. There's other options at tackle later. I think it might be a bit of a reach, and there is still a true first-round player. Every NFL team is about 24 first-round grades, true first-round grades on players, and I've got 1 or 2 guys left here, Antoine Winfield being one of them at safety. He can be the last missing piece in this secondary. You have a dynamic group of corners after signing Byron Jones. They really like Eric Rowe in that strong safety position, a bit of a slot hybrid, but they are missing the Devin McCourty in this defense. I'm going to grab Antoine Winfield and make this one of the best premier secondaries in the entire league, and we know that that's what the Patricia coaching schemes value is, building from the secondary down. And I seriously doubt that Brian Flores is very comfortable with Adrian Colbert playing free safety here on like his 4th team in as many years. Then at pick 27, the Seattle Seahawks have a gaping hole at edge. Really whiffed last year on LJ Collier. Does not feel like they're going to bring Jadeveon Clowney back. Even if they do, this pick would still make sense. Yetur, Gross, Matos. Perfect scheme fit as a bigger-bodied edge defender. Can play the run right away, and I think Seattle is a great fit for this guy as well. A team that can really develop his skill set. He is still a bit raw, but that athleticism at his size is pretty special, and I think this is a great spot for him. Then the Raiders, where we move down, T. Higgins is the pick here, and this is the guy I was targeting at 19, but that's why I traded down, because that would have been a little early. Many people will actually say that 28 is too early for T. Higgins. He's still my wide receiver 5. I'm not pushing Denzel Mims up above him because he ran fast at the Combine and had the benefit of being able to go to the Senior Bowl and show off his skill set against a bunch of day 3 corners. You really telling me that T. Higgins wouldn't have dominated in the same way that Denzel Mims did at the Senior Bowl? I mean, T. Higgins actually consistently dominated ACC talent for multiple years, something Denzel Mims couldn't do in the Big 12. So I'm a big fan of T. Higgins. He is the perfect fit here. Michael Crabtree isn't the worst comparison for T. Higgins because, yeah, he might not ever be an elite separator, but he's a smart, crafty route runner. But most importantly, his ball skills are exceptional. And that was really what Michael Crabtree did well, which is something Derek Carr really leaned on. There was a reason that he trusted Crabtree more than Cooper so much back in like 2016, 2017. The reality is Derek Carr is not that much of a creator, and when you get into like 3rd and 9, he is most comfortable having a big-bodied target to just kind of take a 5-step drop, throw that back shoulder, throw that fade, whatever it is. They don't have that guy in the roster right now. They got a bunch of short to intermediate targets, but T. Higgins, I really hope I just talked Raiders fans into it because this pick really resonates for me, especially after moving down to do it. Then we got the Tennessee Titans at pick 29. This is a tough team to draft for because they have a lot of talent, and in the past, they've been picking in the top 20 where it's easier to look at more elite prospects and say, all right, yeah, we can take him and replace this guy who is a starter. But in Tennessee right now, they have a pretty deep roster, but now they're picking 29th, so you're not really looking at an automatic upgrade. The pick here is Noah Igbinoghene. Probably not going to start day one unless he plays in the slot or you kick Malcolm Butler into the slot. But I think this is the type of man cover defender that this team would really want, especially given the fact that he is a little more raw. He might get an opportunity to kind of sit and learn for a year. A converted wide receiver, and the athletic upside, the ability to flip his hips and run with anyone is absolutely there. Pair him with Adoree Jackson, you got a really athletic duo of corners. And then at pick 30, the Green Bay Packers, really tough spot here. I wanted to trade down here. I sat here and looked through the next 14 teams, and I just could not find a trade-up partner that made a lot of sense. So you're kind of stuck here. You could go offensive tackle. This team has a pretty deep offensive line. I like bringing in Rick Wagner. You get Lane Taylor back from injury. Billy Turner can play a little guard tackle. You've got a lot of flexibility there this year. So tackle, not a huge need. It is a need, and that is the best players on the board right now, guys like Josh Jones and Austin Jackson. But wide receiver is something that's really going to help this team win now, or linebacker, but the linebackers are gone. Aaron Rodgers is 36 years old. You want to try to win right now, and this is a very talented wide receiver class. But who's the guy? Is it Devin Duvernay to start in the slot? That would be great, but this is way too early for Devin Duvernay, who I love. I'm not a Denzel Mims guy, and especially here where you already have a bunch of tall, stiff guys like Denzel Mims. You basically have 3 Denzel Mims on the roster already with Lazard, St. Brown, and Devin Funchess. So that's redundant, no less redundant than some of these other big-bodied guys. The thing this offense really is missing is that deep threat. So KJ Hamler is the pick here. Very raw. A total gamble, swing for the fences here. This would be a boomer bust pick, but based on the fact that this team could not trade down, I think it's the best that this team could do here at 30. Then we got the San Francisco 49ers at 31. Very easy pick. Corner down the road, kind of similar to what we said about the Cowboys as far as this team having spent a lot of money on this roster already. They need a corner. Trevon Diggs slipping a little bit in this situation. Diggs, not the best man cover corner, but he could totally come in here. He could start day one, or he could sit for a year. Learn from the best at what Trevon Diggs does well in Richard Sherman as that press cover 3 corner. Perfect fit. Definitely a pick for the future more than right now. But when you're picking late in the draft here, sometimes you got to do that. Draft guys that can turn into top talents. And then with the 32nd pick, the last one here, this is going to be Austin Jackson. So you got Eric Fisher at left tackle. You got Mitchell Schwartz at right tackle. At some point, you do need to worry about that as far as their age is concerned. Patrick Mahomes is, 24 years old? If you want him to have this dynasty of a career, you're going to want an offensive line in place that can really sustain itself for the future. This is capitalizing on a very deep tackle class. The Chiefs are going to be consistently picking in the bottom 4 of drafts. It's going to be pretty rare for them to get a player like Austin Jackson. And to get ahead of the game here, start developing a guy who has a ton of upside. He can be a franchise left tackle by sitting a year, learning from Eric Fisher, and then plugging in. And by the way, I think Fisher is on the last year of his deal as well, something that I don't think the Chiefs are going to be able to afford. So definitely thinking a little bit more for the future here, but I love the developmental upside and sustainability of this pick here. So that is the mock draft. I am super passionate about this first round. It's not going to play out like this. It's not. You know, Tua's going to go in the top 5. Herbert's probably a top 6, 7 pick. I didn't even mention him. I think he's a second to a third round prospect. But what excites me about this is kind of my last record of what I thought these teams should do, that we can look back on in a year and see where I was right, where I was wrong, see how these guys play out, see how the draft plays out on Thursday, adds to my reactions, what I think the reaches are, what I think the falls are. So I love this mock draft. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys join me as well for the live draft stream on Thursday. I know you got options out there, but I would be honored if you were to join me here on YouTube Thursday night for the draft. All right, guys, hit that like button. 1,000 likes. We'll get rounds 2 and 3 up. But until next time, cheers.